Welcome back to Love Sex LA Unfiltered. And today's kind of like a weird day, right? Like my hair is kind of messy. Like, don't even pay attention. I was in the ocean and this is just how it dried. So this is what we're doing. But I'm going to talk a little bit about being the fixer in this episode. So many of us girls, we like to fix, we like to home renovate, right? Our relationships. And we're going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about why the black cat boyfriend is taking over. I saw this on Instagram actually today, but I've always believed like I am team Conrad, team Mr. Big, but we're going to get into that in a second. And yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited too. Like I was in those, what are those outlet malls? The Cabazon outlet malls this weekend. And I went to the Skims there and I got like a whole thing of Skim dresses. It's like a discounted outlet mall. I've never been to them before, but I was totally infatuated with the whole concept. And I'm going to do a little haul later too on that. But anyway, moving on from that, let's get into the black cat boyfriend. Something I want to jump into is something I saw on Instagram today, and that is the black cat boyfriends are taking over. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the summer I turned pretty. I am a little behind, not gonna lie, but I've always thought from the very beginning Team Conrad over Team Jeremiah. And I think there's a very good reason for that, actually. I think for so long people had this idea in their head that the golden retriever boyfriend was like the guy that's like the nice guy who is going to be like all over you and idolize you and be there for you and be more loyal because they're so open and, you know, they're like Aiden from Sex and the City, which didn't turn out too well and just like that. But I think that the reason people like Conrad this season is actually because, and like the whole black cat, is because even though they may be guarded at first and find it a little bit more difficult to open up, and they definitely have their flaws, don't get me wrong, everyone does. When they do open up, it actually means a lot more. And they're usually, the black cat boyfriend is actually much more transparent than the golden retriever boyfriend, right? Like, for example, Mr. Big from Sex and the City, hot take. I'm totally team Mr. Big. And, you know, I know a lot of people find him to be narcissistic. They think he led Carrie on and broke her heart, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think that Mr. Big was transparent about who he was from the very beginning. And Carrie chose to keep pursuing that, to keep seeing him. And she thought she was going to change him, fix him, which is another thing we're going to be touching on later, actually, is fixing men, right? Thinking you can turn their red flags green. But anyway, Mr. Big was always transparent about who he was, where he was emotionally at in his life. And Carrie kept pursuing it regardless of knowing that, right? And thinking she was going to change it or fix it. So like I said, when the black cat does open up, it actually means a lot more than dating the golden retriever who you think is like the nice guy. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. The nice guy isn't always the good guy. So I think it totally makes sense right now that people are saying the black cat boyfriend is taking over, right? I'm going to tell you the difference. I'm going to tell you the difference between a black cat and a golden retriever based on my own experience, okay? I went out, a few months ago with this guy who was a total golden retriever. It didn't make it past date 2 for reference, okay? He was a total golden retriever. After the second date, he was like ready to delete like all the apps off his phone. And like, I didn't ask him to do that, but like, it was just like very overwhelming. The golden retriever, like think about a golden retriever. They like want to like jump up on you and like lick your face. Like, how do you describe it? Like, it's just like too much, right? And he was the kind of guy, even though like, you might think on paper he's perfect, right? Like nice, has a job, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like the minute I didn't answer his text right away, because like, I'm sorry, I'm busy too. Like he started sending ghost emojis. And to me, that's like at the end of the day, that's not like a understanding person. The love and like the interest they have is not coming from a genuine place. The intention is not actually that of a golden retriever. Like at the end of the day, I just think a golden retriever is going to be the more overwhelming, overstimulating, and not in a good way choice. And the black cat, even though he might seem reserved, even though he might seem emotionally unavailable, when those black cats do open up, I think it makes for a way better relationship and a more stable one, actually, believe it or not. And speaking of black cats, I want to kind of talk about Little Miss Fix-It, which I've been in most of my relationships, situationships, crushes the whole thing. The girl who wants to fix and be the fixer is always the one that wants the black cat, right? She wants to fix him, change him, she wants to make him open up. And I think that a lot of the times we go into relationships as like contractors, basically. You find the man, get the quote, and start renovations, or at least attempt to, right? And that's what happens with these black cat situations with Little Miss Fix-It, okay? And we've all been there. I mean, at least I've been there. But here's the thing with being a fixer. Taking on the burden of trying to fix someone or change someone when they're not ready to or open to creates these expectations, and it's your own expectations that end up disappointing you at the end of the day. A real relationship is seeing someone just as they are, flaws and all, red flags and all, whatever it is, and accepting them just like that, not wanting to change them or fix them. Anything else is a project. It's basically arts and crafts. Speaking of situations in which I thought I could fix someone, change someone, or just kind of dismiss their red flags or turn their red flags green, right? Like we said, arts and crafts. I told the story actually on someone else's podcast show recently. And this is like the perfect example of like thinking you can change someone or dismiss their red flags and accept them when like you truly, like if you don't accept them for who they are, you're not gonna even, it's not even gonna be possible to change them. So this is the story of a DJ, which I guess right there was like a red flag seeing that, right? So I'm in Santa Monica, and just to preface this, I met this person in real life, like in the wild. This was not someone I met online. I know you hear like horror stories about, dating apps and online dating. This was not one of those situations. This was a red flag, bright in the wild, okay? So I was coming down after a situationship. I was down bad, right? And so I was kind of seeking that person in other people, I'd say. And I'm out in Santa Monica, and I meet this guy, a DJ, and his friend. His friend was originally the one that was interested, but I just like wasn't into it. And the DJ and I start talking. We end up going out, all of us. It was me, him, his friend, and my sister, to this bar in Santa Monica. So we go, and he seems cool, right? He's like kind of the life of the party guy, fun, whatever. And we went our separate ways, but he would start texting me, messaging me, that kind of thing. And he invited me out to a show he was doing in Santa Monica. And I'm thinking like, okay, he's a DJ, right? I'm thinking like DJ Santa Monica, Diplo on the beach, right? No, that is not what it was. We go to this bar, and to see him perform, he was basically a playlist curator at this bar, right? There was no one there except me. And it was definitely not a DJ show, right? Which should have been my first like red flag. The guy's a little delulu. But whatever, that happens. And then I go home. I hear from him again. He invites me to this festival. Like it's a little like art and music festival type thing in Santa Monica. I'm like, oh, that's cool. He gets our tickets, whatever. I bring my sister. He's got his group of friends there. And at first, everything seems normal, right? Like as normal as it can be based on what I know about him so far. He's there. His friends seem cool, whatever. Then as time progresses at this festival, he's drinking, and he's drinking a lot. And he starts getting kind of weird and touchy and saying just weird things, okay? And eventually I was like, listen, like I got to go. My sister's got to get home, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he freaks out. Like he freaks out. It's like, I got you tickets to this, and now you're taking off on me. And he's just telling me off in the middle of the street, basically. And my sister and I are like, okay, whatever, let's get out of here. So we go to our car, and my sister's telling me in the car, like, while you were with him, I was talking to his friends, and his friends were like giving me the tea on him, right? Like they're like, why is your sister with him? He's a fighter. Like his whole front teeth are dentures, right? And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like, this is just getting weirder by the second, which should have been my next red flag. But he ends up calling me while we're in the car. And he's like, listen, I'm so sorry. My friends are like, you're so dumb. What are you doing? Like, so of course, instead of like just dropping it and leaving it and taking him for what he was, I was like, okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Maybe I can turn those red flags green. And we meet up with him again. He like comes with us back to Beverly Hills where we live. And I'm like, there's like still like somewhat a logical part of my brain. And so I don't want him to know where I live. So we just go to like this restaurant, we go to a restaurant right there, kind of by where I live. And he keeps drinking. And again, he's getting like weirder and weirder and just like telling all these bizarre stories and like planning our life out together. And at this point, I'm so exhausted. Like I'm barely functioning. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. But naturally, of course, I end up next door at this little like bar at the hotel next door. So and he's still drinking. And when you feel so trapped or like stuck in a situation that you're like, I don't even know how to get out of here at this point. Like it's either going to be one of those things where it's going to piss him off and I'm never going to speak to this person again, which should be fine actually, right? But I got to get out of here. So he's still drinking. I'm texting my friend and I'm like, you got to help me get out of here. You got to say like you have an emergency or something and you need me to come pick you up. So as he's like telling me these crazy stories, like at this point I realize this guy's a pathological liar. He's telling me he knows like Elon Musk and Gavin Newsom, and he's trying to pull up pictures on his phone, he says, with these people. But of course his phone dies, right? So I'm like, shit, like he's really stuck here now. Like he is here. He's not gonna have a way to get home. But I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm just going to have to like let him go and like figure it out himself. So I'm like, sorry, my friend is like, she has an emergency. I got to go pick her up. And, I got to end it. I got to call it a night. And he freaked out again. He freaked out, told me I was lying, which like, okay, fair enough. But I end up leaving him there in the middle of the street and he figures it out somehow because I get a text from him later on. He like texted me acting like he didn't even remember what happened, which is crazy if that's the truth. But so yeah, that was the end of that situation. And that was like such a lesson because I'm like, if you see the red flags from the very beginning, you need to cut it off and don't think you're going to change someone's red flags and their flaws. Like if you don't accept them as they are when you meet them, then that should be it. When someone shows you who they are, believe them, right? Like you are not there. You're not a contractor. You're not there to renovate. You're not there to like fix. You're there to like either be with someone that's going to enhance you and better you and vice versa, or leave it alone and move on. Moving on from that, I received some questions from some of you guys on love and dating, and I thought I'd go over them and kind of give some answers today on these. So, how can I tell the difference between love, infatuation, and attachment? I think love, when you're truly in love with someone and they are in love with you, you don't feel anxious or insecure about the relationship, first of all. It's not the kind of situation where you're constantly questioning yourself, questioning them, their motives, where they are, who they're with, right? When it's genuine, you will know because it will make you feel at ease. It's not going to make you feel anxious and nervous, right? When it's infatuation, which I feel like is actually a lot of the time, we mistake infatuation with love, right? I find that it's usually a more lustful situation, and not to say that you shouldn't be attracted obviously to the person you are dating, whatever, but you tend to have more of that nervous, insecure, anxious attachment energy when it's just infatuation, constantly wondering like when you're going to hear from them, who are they with, why haven't I heard from them, right? So I think that's the real difference between like love and infatuation. Is with love, like you genuine love, you feel at ease and secure in the relationship versus feeling nervous and anxious and in constant panic or overstimulation about where you stand with this person. How do I know if my partner is emotionally unavailable or just stressed and guarded? Well, I think first of all, it's a matter of communication, right? Like you have to be willing to communicate with that person and vice versa about what they're going through. And I think by simply asking, you'll have your answer, unless they're just trying to kind of breadcrumb you and keep you around and, you know, maybe give you the answer you want to hear, but then act otherwise. But then it goes back to actions speak louder than words, and like what they say should be aligned with what they're doing. What is the number one communication mistake most couples make? I think the number one communication mistake people make is they fear speaking up out of worry that if they say something that's going to scare the other person away, that it's going to end the situation, which shouldn't matter, because if it's that easy to scare someone away you're with, you probably shouldn't be with them, and it's not going to work out in the long run anyway. That goes to, you know, like having a fear of abandonment, right? How do you know when to walk away, even if you're in love? Well, I think that's a hard one. But I think if you're even like questioning it or considering it, you're probably in a place where maybe you should think about walking away from that person, at least for the time being. And it doesn't mean that you won't end up with them in the future, or there's not potential in the future. But I think that you know when something in your gut feels off with a situation. Like your heart can be very emotional, your mind can be too logical, but your gut doesn't lie, right? So if in your gut you're like, I don't feel like I'm being treated the way I deserve, or at least the way I'm not accepting to be, right? Or you feel confused about the situation. A lot of the time people don't realize like confusion is, you should not feel confused when you are with someone. You should feel very confident about how they feel about you, about how you feel about them, and where the situation is going. And that goes back to a lot of communication as well. But if a person's not ready and they're in a space where they're not ready, so you're left confused, then you should probably move on, even if it's just temporarily, until they prove that they're ready for something. Or in the meantime, you move on and find someone who's going to give you what you deserve. I'm going to leave you with this. Your dating life should not be a project. It shouldn't be a home renovation. It should be the space you come home to and you feel safe and secure and know you are confident in your relationship with that person. So enough with the arts and crafts, and no judgment though. We've all been there. We've all been there. But I think that when you are truly in like a genuine relationship with someone, it shouldn't be about fixing them or changing them or vice versa. It should be about both of you accepting each other for who each other are and enhancing each other in a way where you better each other and can grow together, but not fixing each other, right? So that's what I'm going to leave you with today. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And I'll see you next week.